We're not Michigan, we're not Arizona, we're not Florida, we're not a lot of other states that are so far underwater that I don't know how they're going to get out in my position. The reason is because that 4 years of good Republican leadership, that's what kept this state afloat and has gotten us as far as we have compared to our sister states. Now, I tell folks, we got us 2 years into it, we got it about as far as I think we can get, especially with the depth of what's hitting the state, but it is a benefit whether you realize it or not, because that probably never made the front page of the Star either, did it? Republican leadership saves state financially. Have they said that one? I'll hope for that one.
I think it was in the want ads.
Yeah. Maybe so. But it's because I would stand here and tell you, and I'll tell anybody, it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Independent press, those 4 years of Republican leadership has salvaged this state financially so that we don't have to engage in selling the capital like they're attempting to do in the state of Arizona. They're selling public buildings and they're going to lease them back, and the state capital is up for sale. I said I would resign from the legislature if that's the kind of job I had done. But we haven't.
It's not quite like putting the state jet on eBay.
No. Make a long story short, again, I appreciate your attention, I appreciate your time, I appreciate the opportunity to come out and speak to the Republicans. Just a couple things. We're going to pass around a sign-up sheet for you who'd like to sign up. Obviously, it's a big state. We have a literature piece on here as the website. If you do Facebook, I am on Facebook. I try to stay up with that. A bumper sticker is just free advertising. Now see this on your bumper and say, who's Ice-T? Who's this Ice-T guy? And it starts a great conversation. Yeah, that's at the front. A great conversation. Say, no, it's not Ice-T. It's a different guy. It's Alan Icet. But if they want to go in the poll vote for Ice-T, I don't mind. I do not know very long. But it's a great conversation piece because people look at that and say, we got in front of the camera. Is that
there we go.
Oh, there we go. All right. There we go. It's a great conversation piece. It kind of breaks the ice on why are you. One thing I found being in this office, it's interesting to see how people vote and why they vote. And you all think we all vote the same way. Some people read it, go on the web and do that. Some people. I had one guy that voted for me, told my daughter, this ran for the first time state rep. He says he knows nothing about the candidates. This is kind of college age, maybe a little. Walks into the voting booth and votes for the guy who has the most interesting name.
Oh my God.
You vote for me, but I really don't know if I like the way that works. So, but anyway, I'll take whatever I can. Was I holding that upside down like you know?
No, you were not.
That would really be embarrassing. So I appreciate just the free advertisement. It's a big state because people in this room are, for the most part, politically active. You're interested. You're trying to make yourself informed, which is a very, very good thing. And one of the things I found is people would come to me and say, I don't know who we vote for. So you could be influence makers in your neighborhood, in your business, in your church, whatever the case may be. So I'd ask, obviously, for your vote, but I also ask you to reach out to the people who aren't spending the time that you are on what is a critical election. Help them be informed on who the best candidate is. So I'd be happy to take any questions at this time, but don't be shy. Yes, Andrew.
Alan, being in education, there's been a lot of discussion lately with the governor's budget, especially how he is currently underfunding the foundation formula that's been increased by the Republicans in past sessions. And another concern I have, and I want you to just kind of comment on where we're at in that battle right now with the budget for education, and then also the Missouri Commissioner of Education is a woman by the name of Dr. Nicastro, and I've emailed her office a couple times and can't get much response out of her. There's a thing called Race to the Top, which is another large federal funding push to force the states into certain restrictions that are set forth by the Federal Department of Education. Now, Arne Duncan, who is the current Secretary of Education, is 1, never been a teacher, 2, never been a principal, 3, has no degree in education, and I can't get her to even respond to my emails as a certificated teacher in the state of Missouri onto why she thinks that's okay to take funding from a person that knows nothing about education, who's never set foot in a classroom in the state of Missouri. So is there any way for conservative teachers, and even teachers that are independents, Democrats, moderates, who just don't agree with what's going on, to get the Commissioner of Education to listen to us?
I would say yes. It can be difficult just for one voice, But if you can put a coalition together and communicate to the, in this case, the director, and say, we have some legitimate concerns about this issue, either through your organization, or your MSTA, or whatever the case may be. And I think MSTA is concerned. I don't think MSTA is supporting this race to the top. That is, it's a group of voices. Clearly, Tea Party is a good example of a group of voices raising that level up to the point where even politicians in Washington, D.C. ignore it at their own peril. So I'd suggest try that. You can also talk to your state rep and your state senator. The two reasons, in fact, my predecessor served 16 years in the legislature. He said there are two reasons you're elected to serve in Jefferson City. One is, and it's not to pass bills. We're not there to pass bills. We're there to pass a budget. Missouri is a state that has an annual budget, so we have to pass the budget on an annual basis. The second reason is you're there to represent the people who sent you. Everything else you're just doing for fun. Because if people have problems with state government, they should be able to turn to their elected officials, state reps or state senators, and say, I have a problem, will you intervene on my behalf? I call your state rep and your state senator, ask them to intervene on your behalf. Besides, if the president can put a guy in charge of General Motors who never had a manufacturing job in his life, why can't we? What's this about education? I don't understand. Right? The guy never had a manufacturing position running General Motors. Yes, sir.
Okay, the Hancock Amendment controlled taxes.
Right.
But what some, I don't know if the state is doing this, but in Kansas City, Missouri, they didn't pass taxes, they passed levies and fees,
Right.
which is a tax, and some of them been knocked down because they were in fact a tax.
I'm not a John. The question is, as far as what Hancock does briefly, is state revenue, or the revenue rather that flows into state's coffers, if it is at a pace that is beyond personal growth in personal income, state of Missouri has to refund the money. We had, I think, 2 years. It was the late 90s, I'm trying to remember, 97, 98, something like that. The state had to refund the money because Hancock triggered. So some people got the bright idea, let's just increase the fee because that's not a tax. So they're playing games like that to get around Hancock for obvious reasons. Again, one of the things I'm trying to do with this resolution, and it would go to a vote of the people, whether or not to cap how much we could actually appropriate, because what can happen is the state have a revenue windfall. Times are good and we get more money in. I assure you, the appetite to spend all that money is enormous. But if there were a cap on how much we could actually spend, it would force us to keep a lot of that money in the piggy bank, so to speak, and live within our means. But unfortunately, I think I've introduced that the past 3 years. It's gotten out of the House 3 or 4 years. It's gotten out of the House every year. It's died in the state Senate. We're not going to try to get this last year, sitting there and ramp up through the Senate, because it needs to be to force people, well, us in Jeff City, to live within our means. Yes, ma'am.